But my passion was always that any kind of dance science I did or kind of preach about
Um,
can be practiced in, I hate the word recreational studios, recreational dancers, but that kind of grassroots level,
I
like
understand what you mean.
all
Yeah.
those ballet teachers around the world teaching, all those engaged 5-year-olds. That was my passion, that you could make dance science applicable to
Mm.
that level of teaching as well. So I think we are moving forward, but I think there is a lot more to do in terms of breaking down those barriers and teaching from a more scientific based manner. Um,
Hi, Paul.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's so great to meet you here on Zoom.
Oh, you too. Thank you so much for reaching out.
It's a great pleasure. I'm so interested in what you're doing. You've got such a wonderful path or a wonderful career in dance, not just dance, performing, and also teaching and dance science.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's been a different career. It's been varied, so I'm very lucky, I think.
I must say, did you ever think of being here where you are now when you started out dancing?
No, no, not at all. I was always ambitious in my career from the start, but I don't think I ever dreamed of where I am right now in terms of a career. It's almost like I've always just taken a gamble at things. It's always been like I've never planned my career. Like I've never sat down and thought, okay, in the next 5 years I want to be here and then I want to do this. It's always been that I've seen opportunities and applied for them or taken the opportunity when it was handed to me. And I've kind of sometimes I feel like I've fallen into into where I am right now because I just haven't planned it. I've never kind of sat down and thought of a career plan for myself. It's just been a seeing opportunities and taking them and applying for them whenever I could.
But it's also, I was thinking also when I read about everything you did and still doing, I think so many people always say, "Oh well, if you become a dancer, you have a short career, so you can only dance until a certain age, and then what then?" But but here you are, and you've done, all these things, and it just shows you that dance, it's not just the career of performing, but there's so much more around it and so much more that you can do.
No, definitely. There's so many opportunities. My initial training was I wasn't, how do I say? I wasn't in love with the idea of being a professional dancer. I'm not sure I have
Really?
the that personality. And so I teaching was my main passion. So when I did all my kind of vocational training and all my initial dancer training, I didn't particularly want to follow that professional dancer route. I felt like it wasn't for me because after teaching my first classes and getting experience whilst I was training teaching, I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. I was passionate about it and I was excited about it. And it was also like a world that maybe was more female dominated. Like there are a lot more female teachers. So I kind of maybe saw a niche for myself there, but that's kind of where my dance training, when I was training to dance, kind of that led me down to teaching. And yeah, I just never had that feeling of wanting to be a professional dancer. But now I see everything I've done since my initial training, and I think there's so many different opportunities for people within the dance world, even if they don't make it as a dancer or the shorter dance career that they have. There are so many more opportunities to share their passion for dance and it's not just within teaching. There are so many other roles and things that you can do.
And it's true that you say mostly the dance teachers are female. I mean, if you look at the time when dancers start out, I think my son started dancing also at a young age, and it was mostly female
Mm.
teachers that he had. And it's only when he went to ballet school that he started, being taught by male teachers. And it's true that it is like that.
Yeah, I think at grassroots level, when most people do start, I do think it is like a female dominated, maybe the wrong word, but it is mainly female ballet teachers. And I kind of maybe I slightly understand why, but like even in my experience, I think the first time I had another male in my dance class was when I went to college to study dance. That was the first time I ever actually had another boy. Like I had danced with like boys in like local pantomimes and musical societies, but I'd never actually trained like in dance class with one before. And I think the first time I ever had a male dance teacher was when I spent a summer in Os in Austria, studying in Vienna at the Impulse Dance Festival. And that was the first time, and that was probably when I was 18, 19. And that was only for like a month where I had a male dance teacher. So I kind of I've never really experienced it myself as being taught by a male, or whenever I did dance exams, I've never had a male examiner myself.
Really?
Yes, so it's I've been very female. I'm surrounded by my teachers and my colleagues and my peers. But yeah, even when I did my dance teacher training, I think I was the first male person that had been put through by the college that I went to do all the dance teaching training. So yeah, so it was a bit strange at times.
Well, you, apart from the fact that you have the Irish accent, that I know you grew up in Ireland, but where did you grow up?
So I grew up in some place called the sunny southeast, so Wexford. It's on the southeast coast of Ireland. So you've got Dublin, then Wicklow, then Wexford. And it's a big town, and it's got the National Opera House in it, which is unusual because it's outside of Dublin. But it's also a town that's full of creative types and artistry. And there are so many different like amateur drama societies, musical societies, like opera societies, and two or three really big dance schools as well. So I think I was lucky growing up in that town because the arts was so well, there were so many options and opportunities for young people to partake in the arts. And that's how I met and fell in love with dancing. I had never taken a dance class before in my life, and my cousin was part of a musical society, and they were putting on a production of Oliver. And back then, I was quite slight and had blonde hair and a lot more of it as well. Um, so I looked the part and went and auditioned and got into the musical as part of the cast, as part of the course, the Orphans, and just fell in love with dance from there. The person who choreographed it ran a dance school in Wexford, so I joined that soon after, and probably never really wanted to do anything else.
Really?
Yeah, so I think I was really lucky to fall into that passion. It wasn't a young age, but it was like I was probably 11, 12 when I actually started dancing properly or training properly. So quite
And
a late starter.
was that also at that time, like you said, you were there were not a lot of boys, but in ballet. But was it for you sort of easy to go that route, or was there some sort of, frowned upon? Oh, he's dancing.
I started doing modern dance first, and I suppose there was a aspect of me I didn't advertise it in
Okay.
school. Like I wasn't saying I'm the dancer kid or I'm off to
Oh
dance
yeah,
class
yeah,
now.
yeah.
sometimes I would have been covertly running into the dance school because when I went to secondary school, I was still dancing, and my secondary school was like a block down from my dance school. So when you left school and I had to go to class after school, I'd be very probably covertly going into the studio, probably just hoping not to be seen by my school colleagues. But because of the way Wexford is set up and with all those really, really kind of, I mean, almost semi-professional company, amateur drama. It's a bit of a dichotomy, but they were run like a professional company, but and the shows they put on, there were lots of male people who partook in the dance aspect of that and in the course. So I always probably felt safe there because there was other men and boys doing what I was doing, but there was when I was going to dance school, there wasn't. So it was kind of like there were safe spaces, but I also probably didn't feel. I mean, this is what, 22, no, even more. You're older than that, Paul. This is probably, I wish it was only 20 years ago. It's probably like 30 odd years ago that I
Yeah.
would have started class. I
Mm.
was lucky that my parents supported it. They were
Mhm.
happy. Even my dad, who was like a plumber and, an Irish dad.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but they were very supportive as long as I was happy. And
Mm.
I suppose they were the ones doing all the driving in and out for rehearsals and pickups and collections. But yeah, no, it was odd that, when I was doing the amateur musicals and performing like that, I mean, anyone from my school could have gone and saw those and seen me, but I felt safe there in terms of because there were other people around and other men around, and it wasn't just like being singled out. Yeah, I didn't advertise that I was going to dance classes or anything like that, and probably kept that very silent for my whole schooling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But how wonderful also that you fell into musical theater or the
Yeah.
musicals, because that also must have made you a very all-round dancer, because musical theater is also a lot, you get the sort of experience in performing and acting and all of that.
Yeah, no, it was I was very lucky. I'm not a singer, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I think I got a lot of practice at miming at times.
Okay.
But I think it is, I mean, musical, like ballet is my love. Like I fell in once I started studying ballet and learning about ballet and teaching ballet, it became my first love of dance. But I suppose musical theater and modern and jazz are where like I'm more trained in and probably a stronger dancer in terms of those. And I do think that you're correct in saying like that musical theater does create a much more rounded dancer who's open to maybe because of all the different rhythms and all the different styles and just having to, take the roll with the punches as it goes. I do think that it really helped me as a performer as well, being on like, performing, that sense of performance that comes with musical theater. I quite learned that, from a younger age. So I think I kind of brought that with me. And it's something that I still encourage from my students. And I think that's that experience is what I kind of try and bring out in my students in areas sometimes that don't have all those opportunities that I had growing up to partake in so many different musicals and dance shows and like the Wexford Opera Festival is a world-renowned opera festival that happens in Wexford as well. And that's when like for 2 months of the year they put on like they create a mini professional opera company in the town. And the unique selling point of the Wexford Opera Festival is they put on three unknown operas or lesser performed operas, but they also hire locals to perform in them in terms of dancing. So I also got that opportunity a few times as well. So I suppose my geographic location helped me a lot whilst I was growing up because of all the arts and amenities that I had access to.
But I think also, like you say, these opportunities. But I wonder sometimes young dancers, like who wants to go to ballet school, wants to, pursue that career, if there's so much pressure on them to in ballet, at a very young age, and that they have to compete to get into these schools, that they actually don't think of doing all these other things, and that they don't realize that how that could be helpful to them.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think as well, because of the nature of trying to get into ballet schools and trying to maybe do dance competitions around where they're doing classical ballet from a younger age, I think that there is that lack of rounded sense of performance, because I think they try and mimic or mime the sense of performance that they maybe see from the variations they're doing, or it becomes quite put on in terms of performance. So I do think that like I've started doing lots of research and reading on that kind of early specialization against not early specialization in terms of sports. Like a lot of my science research comes from sports, and I think about how it would be applied to dance. And like a lot of the sports would say that you shouldn't early specialize. So like you should try as many different things as possible so that all of the movement patterns build up in your body, that you're not just performing in one way. And I think that could be very much linked to ballet and dance as well, not just from a physical point of view of like the huge overuse issues with dancers if they are just doing ballet and training, but I think also that could be applied to a sense of performance and artistry, that they don't get the opportunity to experience lots of different styles of performance and to kind of grow into that, because I think sometimes classical ballet is trained in a very specific way of performing, especially with younger ones. And I think there's no sense of real autonomy of the performance or real understanding of what they're doing. And I think sometimes when I'm examining, sometimes the worst thing I can hear is when a teacher just goes, smile, and sends them to the room. Like, yes, smile for some of it, but also some of it might not just be like smiling. I don't want, that inane gringe or an adage.
Yeah.
Think, and I think the more different styles that students can be exposed to growing up and given the opportunity to experience is only going to strengthen their sense of performance and artistry as they go into full-time training.
But how open do you think these young dancers are? Because there's been this very strict tradition also in how to train as a dancer. And then suddenly now the science shows something completely different. And, I just know how the Royal Ballet, for example, how they train their dancers is quite different, to the rest of, well, I think in America also they train differently. But how open or how open is the dance world, the ballet world specifically, for these new scientific ideas?
It's really interesting because they do take certain ideas on board. So like the Australian Ballet, I think they're probably one of the best examples of a company who has embraced dance science. Just
Really?
one example would be their health and well-being team. It seems to be amazing and really well based in dance science. And David Hallberg traveled there himself I know he's now the artistic director, but when he was dancing, he went there just to work specifically with the health and well-being team because of their knowledge and experience. And they've even created the single leg rise protocol, where they've lowered lower leg injuries within their dancers just by doing single leg rises at the end of every bar. And I think that's starting to come out as well, because you see in World Ballet Day, most of the ballet companies now do those single leg rises in a way of strengthening the dancer's lower limbs to help prevent injuries, because lower limb injuries was obviously there was a high percentage of lower limb injuries in dancers. So, and I think sorry, I've gone off track a little bit there.
No, no. Mhm.
So I think bit by bit it is the dance world is becoming more open to the idea of maybe dance science and sports science being a thing. But you also get the argument back saying, well, we've always done it like this. Or, we created amazing dancers before all of the sports science and psychology, performance psychology that's come out. So why do we need to take heed to it now? And I think from my point of view, sometimes my argument back will be there that a lot of potential dancers were lost to injury or to psychological issues because of the way that these great dancers were trained in the past. And I think that that is a shame that we've probably lost a lot of great artists to other forms of dance or to not becoming professional dancers because of the that kind of historical way of teaching dance. And I know I tried to encourage my students when I was lecturing at the Royal Academy of Dance, when I was doing their dance science lectures, of trying to encourage the next generation of teachers to approach things from a different point of view, or to at least be open-minded to just because you did something one way doesn't mean it's the only way. And I think sometimes it was interesting seeing those students coming to us to train to be ballet teachers from different schools all around the world. And they would come with a very set mind of what ballet was and how you did something. And I think it was really interesting then. My approach to dance science with them would be sometimes I would do some things with them that would change things immediately, like some fascia release or things like that, that would give them this instant sense of change in their dancing to maybe buy them around. But you could see over the 3 years that their mindsets did start to change and start to become more open to the idea of maybe applying dance science to, training at a grassroots level. And I think some of the other issues with dance science are that it's my passion is about making dance science applicable to teachers everywhere. So in your grassroots studios. And I think sometimes they maybe see it as a thing that only professional dancers should be engaging with, or only professional companies can engage with. But my passion was always that any kind of dance science I did or kind of preach about
Uh,
can be practiced in, I hate the word recreational studios, recreational dancers, but that kind of grassroots level,
I
like
understand what you mean.
all
Yeah.
those ballet teachers around the world teaching, all those engaged 5-year-olds. That was my passion, that you could make dance science applicable to
Mm.
that level of teaching as well. So I think we are moving forward, but I think there is a lot more to do in terms of breaking down those barriers and teaching from a more scientific based manner. Um,
Yeah, and I think it's also so important at that level to already have the teachers have an understanding, because you hear so many times of dance teachers saying, yes, the little ones come to do ballet, but the moment they reach teenage years, they lost interest. And then you have to also take into considerations their bodies change, their minds change, the way they also are able to do something. So if the teachers then understand the science and the psychology behind it, maybe then they can also have more of the teenagers stay. I think because that's also a time, and not for them just to become professional dancers, but for them, for their well-being also, to have such a activity as dance.
yeah, I mean, I've taught before I moved to London. I taught for 15, 20 years in Ireland just as a grassroots ballet teacher. I was, teaching those students, and you would see every year as you said, like the teenagers coming to a certain age and then opting out of ballet for whatever reason. And I feel now that maybe with what I know now, after all my research and further education, I think there are probably ways that I could have kept more. And I think, creating a safe environment for them, creating space for them to evolve and grow, creating growth mindset within them. Because I think sometimes at that age, obviously point work became a thing and whatnot. And if they weren't able to do point work or strong enough for point work, they tended to opt out of ballet because their bodies just weren't made for it. And I think maybe if I had maybe worked more with the mindset of like a growth mindset and things like that, and creating that environment where, okay, half of them are doing point work, half of you aren't, that's completely fine, and we will have fun anyway. And I think as well, I know here in the UK and in Ireland, a lot of students also opt out come exams. So when they're doing state and school exams, because there's pressure on them to get high marks and high grades. And again, from all of my learned knowledge now, I see the benefit of them actually taking the hour out a week to do their ballet class, to do their exercise, because it can be of such benefit to everything else. But yeah, I think with everything that we know now, I do think that it is more possible, or there are other ways that we could make it so that we don't lose those dancers come those teenage years. And obviously, we'll still lose some, some as, will just find other hobbies or find other interests, but also those ones who aren't going to train to be professional dancers, just what dance teaches them as they move into their university and adult lives is just such an amazing wealth of knowledge that they have and experience that you don't get from many other childhood hobbies or activities.
Exactly. But how amazing would it not be if schools have, dance and or well, different forms of art as subjects, so that the pressure on the other academic subjects, that's not so great, so that they could do different types of things, or, so that these subjects stand alongside each other. I think that would be also amazing.
Oh, I think that would be the dream world where the art subjects are as lauded or praised as the normal school subjects like, languages and science and math. Obviously, they're important, but so is creating a holistic adult who can appreciate, as I say, like I'm not, I've been teaching for 25 odd years, and when I had my own school, I think maybe 4 or 5 went on to train professionally. Like I know that I'm not always going to be training the next Kelsey Kirklands and Darcy Bustles,
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately. But I am definitely training the future ballet audiences, theatre audiences, art appreciators, classical music appreciators. Um, and I think that that in itself is such a lovely joy to know that I have given all of my students that love as well, or that ability to sit and look at a
Exactly.
piece of dance and analyze what they liked or didn't like about it,
Yeah.
and to appreciate classical music, and to be able to even pull out like simple dance rhythms, from their training with me. And I think that that's really important. And that's just one aspect of creating these amazing humans, that ballet and any kind of dance training kind of gives them. No, not to mention like the discipline that dance gives them,
Absolutely. Yeah.
the confidence it can give to people, and that kind of, yeah, it is amazing what dance can do.
But also, how many science teachers can say that their students went on to be neuroscientists or brain surgeons, or so it's the same thing. You cannot just dismiss the arts because you think not everybody's becoming artists. You have to. It's part of the whole. I think they are also interlinked, these subjects, that we cannot separate the arts, from the other subjects.
No, and I think it really is just about I think sometimes I don't know if education is the right word, but educating parents and schools and
Yeah.
the powers that be about these benefits. And
Mm.
it is about changing what people like presumptions about it and that the arts are, I don't want to say it because I don't believe it, but like that studying the arts is a waste of time or it just doesn't benefit the students. And I think that's really, really sad and short-sighted. And I know that, it's not true that, the studying the arts, whatever it is. I mean, when I was in secondary school, I studied art history. And like to my poor art teachers, just saying I can't draw anything, which was part of it. But the part I loved can't sing, can't draw. I don't know what I'm doing in the arts. But I loved the art history aspect of it and learned so much about art history that I now kind of start, make my own connections with dance history. And it's just lovely to be able to kind of make those different things. So I think it's really interesting that if the arts were as valued in schools, what actually would happen to the other subjects? Because I think there are so many
Exactly.
links with
Mm.
what happens in the arts and like the performing arts subjects
Mm.
to other subjects like across science, biology, physics. I mean,
Absolutely.
ballet is physics. Like how amazing would it be
Exactly.
to have
Yeah.
a physics teacher in looking at a ballet class and teaching
Yeah.
the physics with it and just I
Mm.
think there are so many links and so many ways of strengthening it that it would be
Mm.
amazing. But I think there is a lot of work still to do in terms of that kind of getting that message and that
Mm.
appreciation for the arts, unfortunately.
Well, I think there's a video on YouTube somewhere where actually they took ballet movements and showed the physics of it, and I found it so interesting. There, I actually realized um, how that you really have to understand the physics to understand the movement, and I think, yeah, this is just one example of, like you say, how great would it be if the science and the dance could have been taught alongside each other.
Yeah, I mean, I teach in a school where it's very academic. Like the academic is quite, it's a strong academic school, and sometimes I will talk about phys like my limited knowledge of physics,
Oh
but
yeah.
I will talk about like how to get their leg higher when they're doing a développé or anything like that, and I'll bring in like the physics behind it.
Mm.
And you can see these students are really academically gifted. Um, I mean, two of my students just recently, as an extra credit thing, they wrote an essay for their physics teacher about how pirouettes can be trained via physics or how
Oh
physics can
really?
help improve
Yeah.
pirouettes. And it was just they took it upon themselves to write this essay, and I mean it was a really strong essay, like lots of dance science research, physics, theorems, all applied to pirouettes. And I was like, there, that was such a joy to see these kids who they're not going to go on to be dancers, but they love their dance class.
Mm.
But they took a hobby and they applied it to their academics, and
Exactly.
it's just like a pleasure to
Mm.
see.
No, but it's true. I think that this is my wish, and this is really what I think. This was a question I've asked during lockdown also, and it is also partly why I talk to artists over the world, is to understand why art is not valued, and why people see art as something separate to life, to what we're doing, yet we are all have this creativity. And if I think how wonderful it would be if every child in school could have the opportunity, like you say, you can't draw, but you did get something
Mm,
from art, and actually I spoke to a guy who they revived the lyra, the instrument, the lyra, the Greek lyra. And he told me that uh, in ancient Greece, the if you couldn't play the lyra, you were seen as uneducated.
Oh.
Yeah. So music was such an important part of ancient Greece, you know, of the culture as well. So maybe we should have that revival.
If you can't do a pirouette, you're uneducated.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's so much to it, and I think because of the all the other subjects around the world have had such big impacts and such move forwards or advancements. And I mean, obviously the arts have had advancements too, but to impact on social life and culture, like the science and the maths and economics, it's all kind of moved so far forward so quickly to advance,
Yeah.
civilization that I think sometimes the arts maybe have been forgotten because I suppose, and I'm not being derogatory, but I mean, ballet it still has very much links to the past, and it's still, when we look at choreography and steps, there are those links back to the past, and those ballets are still performed today with very minor changes. So I think sometimes it might be looked at as that there hasn't been that as much advancement within the arts, even though there obviously has been. And I think that's a really kind of probably sad fact as well, that that probably is maybe perceived.
Well, I think also I'm reading a book at the moment, How Art Influences the Brain. And I think we'd underestimate that we are not untouched when we see art. You know, something happens in the brain when we see art. So it doesn't matter what form of art, it doesn't matter if it's music or dancing, or even if you look at a painting. So that already in itself should tell us the importance of art.
I'm going to have to read that book. That sounds really
I
interesting.
can't remember the title. I'm going to send you the
Oh,
title.
please do. I love reading books like that. But I think it's so true.
Yeah.
We at my current role here tomorrow, we're bringing the students to the V&A Museum, the first year students, and it made me think, how can I sell this trip to the V&A Museum to students who are training to be professional dancers? Because I'm taking them out of the studio for a day. They won't be doing any dancing for a day, which is good. Rest is good.
Yeah.
How do I sell
Mm.
this opportunity to them,
Mm.
to engage them and to make it applicable? So I wrote, like, I've set them tasks, I've created a Padlet for them where they can reflect on what they've seen, recreate images, find a picture that makes you feel like a movement. So I'm trying to encourage them to explore the museum from an artist's point of view, that, as you say, it will have an impact on you one way or another. And I think I've tried to, it really made me think about, like, obviously I go to a museum and I can appreciate everything. And I understand that it's improving my cultural brain and my artist's brain and experience. But 16-year-olds may not have that appreciation for it. So it was
Yeah.
really trying to make it applicable to them, but also at their level. So adding in that kind of aspect. Okay, you're going to have your phone with you anyway, so let's use that as the kind of impact. Kind of use your phone to record your reflections on what you're seeing and take pictures that kind of inspire you from what you've seen. So I've tried to do that. So I'm hoping that it is a success for them, but we'll see
I'm
tomorrow.
sure it will. But you know, interestingly, I spoke to did you want to get a glass of water or
No,
something?
no, it's okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. Uh, I spoke to an artist in Australia. She did a series of painting where she hid a little key in every painting. You know, she painted a key and hid it in the series of paintings, because the theme of the painting is it's that idea of another door will open. You know, if one door closes, another will open. And she hit the key in the painting to have that thought process of this is the key to the next door. And I think, you know, I think this is something in art that that for me was so fascinating, that idea of that she did that, you know. And I think like you say, they're looking for something in art or finding something in art that has a deeper meaning and that you take really with you. Because since I saw that and since I spoke to her, this is always what I think about in my life, you know, about that little key, about the door that will open. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
your
think
students will get something.
when I was trying to think, because I know, and I do it myself, when I go to a museum, one of the first things I do will be read about the painting or read the little,
Oh
the
yeah,
piece of
yeah.
paper underneath it to tell you about it before I really look at the painting. So
Mm.
I've encouraged them not to do that, to look at the painting and let
Oh, I
it speak to
see. Yeah.
them. Right, because I
Mm.
know sometimes I fall into that trap of I will read it and then see what I've been told to
Mm.
see. And that's great that, the artist's intentions are there for me to see, but sometimes it's also nice to step away from that and let the art wash over you for your own intentions on it. And I've tried to encourage them tomorrow that they will do that rather than just read what the
Mm.
intention of it was and then see it and then move on, to maybe spend time. What does that painting say to me or make me feel, or what impact is it having on me? And then maybe read what the intention was, and maybe having that conversation with friends or themselves about what was it that made them feel,
Oh yeah.
rather than what they were told to maybe feel and think about it.
That's a great idea, because it is true that we see, everybody can see something different, and that's also good.
Yeah, I know. And like
Ah,
that's
yeah.
when, and I think as well, like I've talked about, like when we look at dancers, like no one sees a dancer in the same way. Like, how
Exactly.
boring would it be if we all just looked at a company and thought the exact same thing about every single dancer? So I've kind of tried to make that link as well, that, artistry and artists and art can all have its own individuality. And that's a good thing. We don't all, I know, working in a court ballet, you might have to be the same, but, everybody will see and observe and be impacted by that art in a very different manner. And I think that that's a good thing. That's the
Yeah,
joy of art, that how boring would
exactly.
it be if we all saw things in the exact same way?
Mm. No, that's true. But Paul, tell me, what are the wishes for you for the future, or what is the dream?
Oh, well, as I said at the start, I've never really planned. I've always kind of taken opportunities. Like I've always had wishes for my career. I
Mm.
always, from the first time I took my first ever dance exam, I always wanted to be an already examiner. Uh,
Oh,
and
really?
and it was, I don't know why, it just seemed really glamorous and lovely. And then 12 years ago, they advertised for the job. And I said, oh, I'm going to be too young for this or not experienced enough, but I'll apply and get my name out there. And somehow I got appointed an examiner that time.
Wow.
So in one way, I think like that one maybe wish or dream that I had as a child, like
Mm.
happened 13 years ago. And since then, like I moved to London 8 years ago to be a lecturer in dance education for the Royal Academy of Dance's Faculty of Education. And again, that was, I never wanted to live in London. I never planned on living in London. I saw the job and thought I'm really interested in that. I didn't think I would get it. And got offered the job and then had to decide whether I actually wanted to move to London or not.
You
Um,
do it that way around.
yeah, and then I've just recently moved to Central School of Ballet as their head of studies. And again, it was just a job that I saw advertised that I thought would be really interesting and a
Yeah.
different challenge. I'd been lecturing dance education and dance science for 8 years and was kind of looking maybe for a something else, and kind of applied and got it. um,
Wow.
so I think for the next while, I want to strengthen my work here at Central School of Ballet
Mm.
and really kind of delve into that aspect of my kind of new job, probably get my head around it first for a year, and then kind of really embed the contextual studies aspect into the dancers here that are trained to be professional dancers and spark a joy of passion of dance history and classical music within them, so that even if they don't go on to be performers, they might go on to be teachers or explore other aspects. And I think that's my goal for the next 5 years at least. But I don't have a career trajectory or plan. Maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing, because then I'm always just open to
Yeah.
these opportunities that come up.
Mm.
But yeah, sometimes I do feel bad that I don't have because people do ask me this question a lot.
Mm.
But I, as a 11, 12-year-old who went into his first ever dance class, I'm now 40. I would never have dreamed that I'm sat in Central School of Ballet's building currently,
Really.
looking back on a career that I'm so proud of and having influenced like a lot of for over the last 8 years, new ballet teachers from the Royal Academy of Dance and inspiring them, and now working with dancers who are training to become professional dancers. I mean, that blows my mind sometimes that I've done all this already, from where I started. So I think that I just kind of want to continue being me, and I get a lot of people who say that, I've inspired them, or my kind of approach to things are, I mean, my go-to line when I was training the ballet teachers was, it's only ballet. Like, don't stress too much. It's only ballet. We're not, we're changing lives, but we're not doing brain surgery. It's
Yeah.
only ballet. Um, and I think that's quite a joy. So yeah, I don't have a career dream or passion or something down the line that I see that I want to do. I want to continue doing what I'm doing and being open to those opportunities. I will continue trying to spread the joy of dance science and how it is for everyone, via articles or CPD courses that I teach, and continue researching that. I've got quite a big passion at the moment, and it started when I did my master's, was the psychology of performance.
Oh,
And
okay.
so that's probably an area that I will hopefully expand my either education or just my research itself.
Mm.
And I think as well, it will be nice. Yeah, just to, as I say, I literally just started in this new job. This is the start of my third week here.
Oh,
So
really?
I'm very new here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I need
I'm
to
glad
embed
I
my
caught you. I'm glad I caught you at this time.
yeah, so I need to embed myself into Central School of Ballet. I think that's my priority for the next while. Um, and yeah, just like enjoy. I love what I do. Like there are aspects obviously of every job that you don't like. Like there's no perfect job, but I just love what I do, and I'm so happy and lucky to do what I do, and I don't take it for granted. And I think that's probably what keeps pushing me to do better and be better. But I don't think I've ever done a day's work in my life since I started
Oh,
teaching
wow.
dancing, because it's
Wonderful.
just
Mm.
and I'm so like, and that's why I think maybe sometimes I don't plan or think ahead, because
Mhm, because you're
I just
happy.
love doing
Yeah.
what I do, and I'm so happy doing what I do.
Mm.
And I've just been lucky with the opportunities that have come my way. But yeah, no, it's I always say to my friends that I've never worked a day in my life.
Really.
Uh,
But that's great. But that's also wonderful that you are open to
mm,
different things, because I think sometimes when you're so stuck in this is what I want to do, that you miss all the other things along the way,
yeah.
that you are in this. I think sometimes we have an urgency to get there, and that makes us miss all the
Mhm.
things that should happen on the way there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, it's a cliche, but like I've loved the journey of where I am
Mm.
right now. And I think if I had been, you know, focused on one maybe career aspiration or one thing, I probably would never have got there because I would
Mm,
have missed doing all the
exactly.
things and experiencing all the experiences that I have.
Mm,
Um, and I think that's one thing I would, say to friends and say to like people that I teach or train, that don't be so focused on one outcome or one goal, because life is full of twists and turns, and if you're just focused on that one super important goal and you can't achieve it for whatever reason, it can be quite heartbreaking and quite soul
exactly.
destroying. So
Mm,
having that kind of open-mindedness and just, I'm not saying I trundle along without any plans, but
mm,
just not being so um focused on one big
mm.
goal or aspiration, I think is important.
I just recently spoke to a dancer, Lewis Gardner. He trained with my daughter at the ballet school, and he was talking about this thing also where he said, at that time they were all so set on everybody wanted to go to the Royal Ballet, and he sort of didn't put it on his list. He knew he didn't want to go there, and he was realistic. He didn't think he would get a job there. But he ended up going to Singapore and he did the most wonderful repertoire there. He loved it there. And, he said that if all the things that happened to him there wouldn't have happened,
Mm.
if he didn't go. So yeah, it's you sometimes have to just, you
Yeah.
know, take
Yeah,
the
I think, yeah,
opportunities.
I think it's so important not to be focused on those. And that's, something I do see is that, students are so focused on getting into the company from the school they're with. And I
Mm.
think that, there's maybe two or three places per year
Yeah.
that,
Mm.
being open to those kind of opportunities is so
Mm.
important and so fulfilling.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. Well, you're the best teacher to take them.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely. Paul, this was so great to talk to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking to you. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lovely start to the week.
Oh, I'm so glad, and I'm so glad I caught you so early in your time at Central.
You come back to me in 5 years.
We'll catch up. And I'm glad to know that you were in Vienna as well, at Impulse Dance, because that's every year that's happening over the
Oh,
summer. So you had your little footprint here,
yeah, oh, it was the best. That was the most fun I ever had.
really.
Yeah, we spent like a month just dancing and exploring different styles that I'd never had a chance to before. And I think, yeah, it was just, yeah, I remember that time very, very favorably.
Well, when you come again to Vienna, then we'll grab a coffee.
Oh, excellent. I'll hold you to that.